Hi there. Welcome to yet again another series of discussion of couple of topics which would be helpful for you. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button and you're watching us, please do hit the subscribe button so you'll get notifications as and when we post new videos. And we hope this is useful for you. Do leave in the comments below if there's anything that you would like us to do or if there's any topic that you would like us to cover. So today we'll be talking about
Problems in developing and underdeveloped countries. So this is a very broad topic where students get a lot of questions in
confused.
in part 3 of the speaking test, as well as it is
in essays
very
as
important
well.
for essays too.
Writing.
Yeah.
Right. So for developing nations can also be termed as emerging nations, which could be used as a synonym when you speak.
As well as when you write. For
Yeah.
the essays
Yes,
also.
for the essays too. That's a very good word that
Because
you can use.
paraphrasing is really important for the
Yeah.
essays.
Yes.
Right. And again, for underdeveloped countries, you could use the word
Economically
backward.
nations. Right. Okay. So let's first talk about the problems in developing countries. First of all, understand that developing countries are those nations that are not too developed and that are not underdeveloped. So
Or they're on the path of development.
yes, path of development. Yes.
Yeah.
For example, India is considered to be a developing country.
Country which is striving to
Become developed.
Yeah.
Right. So let's first look into the problems faced by developing and underdeveloped countries. The first point.
I think the first and foremost one is the standards of healthcare and education is really low in these countries. This is one of the
Or
problems that
it's
they are
just
facing.
coming up like we spoke about before. It's just, I mean, the standards, they are just working on it, or the poverty and hunger rates might be in the border, or it might be high. And
Individually, you can talk about healthcare
And
also
education. Yes.
So let's begin with healthcare.
okay.
Right.
What are the points that you have?
So I think mortality rate would be one of them. The death rates.
Death rates, yes, and lack of proper infrastructure,
Hospitals
hospitals,
Yes.
and
infrastructures.
resources.
Yes.
A high rate of infant death.
For example, it's quite common these days for people to move to developed countries for better treatment. That is a very clear example as on why the healthcare sector in developed nations
It
are
has
far
to be
more
improved.
reliable compared to the developing countries. Right. Again, education. When it comes to the developing and underdeveloped countries, the practical approach that they incorporate
very
is
limited.
very limited, because first of all they don't have
Lack
that
resources.
resources.
I
That's
think we
there.
might have seen many videos where countries
and movies.
Yes, and in movies
Yes.
where they lack teachers are really struggling to teach
Yeah.
the students with the lack with
There's a
since they
high
lack resources.
Resources. Also, there's a
Because
high
in order to
dropout.
teach computer, for instance,
Yes.
without a computer, without a machine, it's impractical for them to teach.
Also, there are high dropout rates in education in schools because of unemployment, or they have to go
Yes,
to work.
unemployment or lack of employment opportunities is also another point.
Right,
that
so
we can
we'll
talk
keep that aside for the time being. So let's
Yeah.
focus on healthcare and
Healthcare,
education. Yes, so we've covered almost all points, I think. Healthcare, lack of facilities. Again, facilities.
Treatment.
Treatment facilities. Probably qualified
Doctors,
nurses. In developing countries, there are qualified doctors, but it is less. And even in even in developing countries, certain doctors and healthcare workers tend to immigrate to
Just
developed countries,
Yes,
right? So
because
which
of the
can
fact
take
that they are paid less.
less
Yes.
in developing countries. So that's it about education and healthcare, and we have parked the topic there. So we have kept aside a topic which is employment opportunities in developing and underdeveloped nations. Employment opportunities are pretty less compared to developed countries. The primary reason being the fact that most of the skilled workers move to a developed nation in search of better opportunities. Again, people in developing countries.
And it causes brain drain, right?
Yes, brain drain is the word that you can use there. Again, related to employment opportunities, many people in developing countries tend to do only white collar jobs, leaving them jobless for a prolonged period of time. And then Lack
It
of
again causes more problems for them
Mhm.
financially. They'll have struggles.
Yes, lack of production and manufacturing units again. So that's it with employment opportunities. Any other points that you wish to add on?
I think that's all.
Yeah.
Right. So another problem in developing countries.
Like we mentioned before when we spoke about healthcare, the life expectancy is very low.
Ah, yes, that's a very good point because this can be either because of uh, healthcare facilities, and it could also be related to the lifestyle that people in developing countries lead.
Or maybe they don't have sufficient money to go to the hospitals.
Yes, that
or
again
the
can
government
be.
is not providing
Yes. So
good health care.
Yes, so the life expectancy is less. For example, in the UK, the average life expectancy is somewhere between 90 to 100 years,
Yeah.
compared
Which
to
is a developed country.
which is a developed country.
Because of better healthcare facilities, like we spoke before,
Yes.
better educational facilities, better
And I think they
living
have more
standards.
time to exercise and involve
Lifestyle,
in
better
physical,
lifestyle.
Yes.
physical fitness.
Yes,
Yeah.
They're
better
aware
standard
of
of
it.
living. Yes,
But in
Better sta-
countries like India, they are not much aware of the.
people are not much aware about
because
the
they are
lifestyle of
striving
this.
to earn their daily wages to meet both ends.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, that's a very good phrase to make both ends meet, which you can use for your speaking as well as for your writing test. Right. So that's it with life expectancy. Again, you can also talk about government norms and regulations because in developed countries, the governments often tend to exercise stricter norms on pollution. For example, the air is much cleaner there, whereas in developing countries, it is practically not possible because
To
they'll
impose these laws.
impose these laws. So you
Yeah.
can also talk
You
about
can
that.
add
That
these
can again be
points.
related to life
So,
expectancy.
like you give one point and just give more points to
Yes.
explain
And
it.
you can give instances.
Right,
which
examples.
gives you
Examples.
more examples.
Again, remember for part 3, you should never give a personal example.
Yes.
Only if you have asked for a personal example, then it's fine. Otherwise, stick
Shouldn't
on to a
state it.
general
Example, right.
example. Yes.
Then the last point that we wish to discuss today is related to the infrastructure facilities, lack of proper infrastructure in developing countries.
What is infrastructure facilities?
I think we have already discussed it related to
Yes.
healthcare and
And
education.
education, general
Yes.
road transport infrastructure,
Yes.
Yeah.
that again is a thing. Then again, parks, gardens,
Just makes
facilities,
life much easier when everything is properly
organized,
organized,
planned.
developed, lesser traffic, lesser easier life, easier lifestyle, better healthcare,
We can talk
better
about how
education.
important is good
Yes.
transportation or like less traffic in an area, or how, as he already mentioned, this pollution related problems.
Yes.
All this can be related and told.
Definitely.
So infrastructure, as we have already discussed, you can talk about healthcare and education, and also what he discussed right now
Yeah.
about the transportation.
Yes.
This can be
Right.
told.
So let's
That's
wrap it up. So we've discussed 4 problems in developing nations. The first one we talked about was related to the standards of healthcare and education. These are pretty low in developing and underdeveloped nations. Then we talked about employment opportunities, which again is less in underdeveloped and developing nations. And also we talked about life expectancy rate and lack of infrastructure in developing and underdeveloped nations.
Yes.
Now that we have discussed the problems in developing and underdeveloped countries, we shall now talk about a couple of questions in part 3 of the speaking test. The first question that we are going to discuss today is related to helping the underdeveloped countries. So the question is, do you think developed countries should help developing and underdeveloped countries? What's your opinion on this? Do you agree? Do you support this statement? Do you think that developed countries should provide support to developing countries? Do you think that?
I do think that support is necessary because, for instance, financial support. It is very difficult for an underdeveloped country to
Cope with certain situations.
Yes, certain situations. If in case of some natural disasters,
Oh yeah.
in those cases, definitely they should
They should.
do something financial. Otherwise, something like medical aid, something of that sort.
I think there are independent associations or things
Yes.
from developed countries that support
Organizations which
Yes.
support, which are backed by
Again,
celebrities
adding
and
on
all.
to this point, you can also talk about job outsourcing. In a way, this indirectly would help developing and underdeveloped countries generate more job opportunities.
Opportunities,
Job outsourcing is a way in which branches of international companies are set up in developing countries and underdeveloped countries to get people in that particular place work for them.
Yeah.
Right,
So
so
that they can actually manage the production cost.
yes, so it is beneficial actually for the company as well as
Yes.
for the
The
country.
people, yeah.
Yes, and the
in
people. Yes.
country, yeah.
On the other hand, you can also disagree
Disagree
to
this
this point.
to this
Yeah.
point. You can
Yes.
say if everything is given for granted, they may not
Yes.
work on
Work
their
for
own
it.
to improve.
Or they may
And,
not have the development that they would have if they
Try to work on
Yes.
by
Developed
themselves.
country will be lacking that amount, right? That from their budget they are setting aside some amount.
Amount.
So that will have some repercussions in their own country.
Yeah.
itself.
Yes, that
So
again
that
is
can be told.
Yeah.
right. So you can either, as we've already told in our previous videos,
Yeah.
it is very important to understand that you can either agree or disagree.
Disagree.
Whatever your point of view is, you should have sufficient
Whatever
Ideas.
whichever point of view you feel that you can
Yes.
support with necessary reasons, ideas as well as examples or instances. Support. I mean,
You should choose that
yes.
one wisely.
Yeah.
Rather than jumping into one point and then thinking what to say.
Yeah.
That
Even when you say and when you write, make sure that you have sufficient points. Whichever is.
your point of view.
Yeah.
yes.
You should be strong in
Go
that.
on with
More ideas, choose that side.
Side,
Right?
yeah.
Whether you agree or disagree, they are not going to judge you.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. What do you think are the advantages of immigration?
Yes. Advantages of immigration or
Better living
abroad.
standard.
Living abroad.
Living standard.
Yes.
Yes.
So better living standard is a very good example. This is mainly because the remuneration in most of the developed countries is high, so it has a direct relation to the standard of living.
Infrastructure facilities
Yeah,
that
like
we can
we-
avail,
like we
healthcare
talked
facilities.
about.
Yes.
So overall,
Yeah.
the standard of living is high.
Right, better
So when you-
healthcare, better living standards, better education facilities, all the points that we discussed can be put here.
Yeah, right. But again, when you talk about the advantages and disadvantages, whether be it essay or to a discussion part, it's better to state one advantage and then explain it, then the second advantage explain, rather than stating the
Yeah.
entire advantages together.
Otherwise, it's
Yes.
a jumbled up.
Yes,
It will
so
be
for this same
difficult
question again, I mean, for the same question, you could state an answer like this: the primary merit of immigration is the better standard of living, and then explain that point. You can say in most of the developed countries, they have a lot of facilities, the pay is high. Right, so when it comes to advantages, make sure that you talk only about advantages if the question is only about the merits.
Listen to the question.
Again, try to
carefully.
paraphrase it. Other than saying advantages, what all can you use? Okay, so try to use synonyms for advantages. Can you say an example?
Advantages, merits,
Positive,
Positives,
positives,
benefits.
benefits,
So pros also.
Pros also.
upsides.
Yes.
Upsides can be told. Yes.
So these are just some other synonyms of advantages.
Right, so that's it for today. We have covered a bit about the problems in developing countries, and also we talked a couple of two-way discussion questions. Right, so if you have any further suggestions that you wish we should cover in the future,
Any
please,
topics that you
Yes.
find it difficult?
yes, please do leave a comment below. We'll also pin a few of our previous videos in the description box. Please make sure that you watch this and share it with your friends too, as this can be highly useful.
Or you can also search for any, like we've done a lot of ideas for discussion for part 2, part 3. So you can just search for it and you can find it in our videos. So we hope this was useful, and
That's
Thank
it for
you.
today.
that's
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.